Hi, everybody. Hi, Gabi.
Hi, Vivi. Hi, everybody.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of BEqualise. I'm really delighted today to be again supported and to have this wonderful discussion with Gabi Hacmon. I am Dr. Viviana Mucci. Together with Gabi, we are two of the co-founders of BEqualise, and today we're going to present you another interesting topic, which is related once again to nutrition. This is also because Gabi is a nutritionist and homeopath, and so she's going to guide us, and we're going to talk and explore some of the complaints related to gut health. Hopefully, this is going to be very useful for all the patients that are following us and watching us at home, as well as also perhaps people that are not really having any pathology, because this is really about general gut health. So welcome, everybody. I'm really excited. So once again, welcome, Gabi.
Thank you.
How are you? How is it
I
going?
am
How
really
are you?
good. I'm good.
Okay, fantastic,
Yes.
fantastic. Okay, so let's dive into the topic. Perhaps we can start just by giving a brief summary once again for the people that don't know you, and this is maybe the first time they hear about you, what you're doing in terms of your job. Just really a few words, if you can explain a little bit more about your background, and then we'll dive into the topic of today, which, by the way, is going to be about gut dysbiosis and fasting, and also in general gut health. Please, Gabi, go ahead.
So yes, I'm based in Amsterdam, Netherlands, and I have a clinic in alternative medicine. What does it mean? I have a lot of clients that come see me that have really tried many different approaches, also in the alternative field. And I basically do a lot of lab work to first get an understanding of, where they're at, and basically give them dietary, interventions, extra supplementation, trying to help them rebalance their system so the body can actually heal itself, trying to avoid taking more and more synthetic, any kind of a medication that might be causing even more side effects. So often I'm treating people that are, well on their journey of trying to find solutions. And yeah, it's very powerful what you can do.
Thank you, Gabi. And
Yeah.
I'd like to say, just for everybody that is new on the channel, everybody that just started to following us, so just a little bit of a history about us. We met years ago now. As you know, I have a background in vestibular and dizziness since I did my PhD on vestibular medicine. And together with Gabi, we started to collaborate, and I've started to send her more and more patients that had dizziness. And this is why we decided to combine what is a Western approach, the typical medical approach, also with the more holistic approach, which hopefully is going to be reflected into BEqualise app. It's partially already there, so if you want to download it, everybody, and explore, remember this is our first version. We're working on a much more sophisticated one that is going to come out soon, but just for everybody to get a little bit of a background. Okay, let's dive into the topic of today. I would start with trying to explain everybody what is actually a dysbiosis, because many people may not be aware of it. So maybe we can start from the very basics and just trying to explain to everybody what it is. I guess that most people by now, they're very well aware that we are actually coexisting with billions of bacteria and viruses in our body, and this is something that for microbiologists is very normal, and for everybody else is not. So we coexist with them; they help us out. The bacteria are part of they're part of ourselves, and so perhaps this is what we're going to dive into today, which is dysbiosis. Please, Gabi, if you want to go ahead and tell us a bit more about dysbiosis.
Well, you start with the question, what is dysbiosis? But like you say, we have many different inhibitants that are living on us and inside of us. And at least nowadays, there's a lot of recognition and understanding that there must be a lot of interaction when it comes to our health and wellness, that there might be a relationship between, all the bacteria that are living within us. So dysbiosis is actually a very broad term. that kind of says something about whether the balance between the good bacteria and the bad bacteria, because there's lots of beneficial bacteria that are actually helping us, digest our food, but produce different compounds that our body actually needs. But there's also bad bacteria, to use simple terms. And the balance between the two is important, because having too many bad bacteria can give lots of unpleasant symptoms. So symptoms as in food might not be digested optimally. Food might be sitting in the gut for too long, causing fermentation. It's a very common thing nowadays for many people. I would say, 8 out of 10 people have some form of digestive problem. It can be pain, digestive, issues, discomfort, gassiness, bloating. And it all can be related to this dysbiosis that we find in the gut, in the colon, to be precise. Or
Okay,
actually,
so
yeah.
Yeah, in the gut. So so dysbiosis, for everybody that is watching, it's indeed, just to make a summary. So when we talk and refer about dysbiosis, is an imbalance between the microbial species that are living and coexisting in your gut. And it can be an imbalance between the good and the bad. And so what would you say, Gabi, would be why this is happening? I mean, if the people are thinking, okay, we have this balance, when does this balance goes actually out of balance? I guess more people are well aware that it happens with antibiotics, a reason why usually they are, as you mentioned before, with a lot of medication, a lot of side effect. But what do you think it could be also a cause? Because it's really so common nowadays that people
So
have
antibiotics indeed kills also the good bacteria, allowing the bad bacteria to maybe grow back faster, something like this. But, not so many people are taking antibiotics. I mean, there's a lot of people that do, but that's not the reason, because of the antibiotics. There's multiple reasons for this happening. Let's start off with the simple things. We're eating the wrong food. The food that most people are eating is partly undigestible. And I'm not really even referring only to the processed foods that are full with additives and other toxic elements that makes it hard for a person to digest. But I'm also talking about foods like raw vegetables, heaps of green leafy salad
rich in
or
sulfurs.
undercooked broccoli, all these cruciferous vegetables. A lot of health conscious people, especially women, and if you're a bit aware and you are interested in health and wellness, somewhere along the line you will get the information that one should consume lots of them. So often people are eating actually large amounts of these types of foods that are not really digestible. And they sit in the gut, they don't get digested, and they cause this fermentation. So we have vegetables, but we also have legumes, also part of the healthy, advertised as very healthy foods with lots of important nutrients. And we're so focused on getting the nutrients in that there's less emphasis on, can we actually digest it and absorb it? Is our physiology built to absorb these foods? So this is an important, factor that causes digestive issues. But there's a couple of other reasons why this happens. It's always a multitude of different factors.
Yeah, sure. I agree with you. It's always multifactorial. Perhaps one of the things that could touch all the patients that are following us is also stress. And oxidative stress in general, also a cause of any gut problem, as well as does dysbiosis, of course.
Yeah.
So
well, stress in general, stress hormones, because if we're stressed, what does it mean? It means that our body is secreting stress hormones. And these stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, they have an effect in our gut. They make the gut permeable. So that's not helping with the digestion. See, one of the most important things to have an optimal digestion, and let's not talk about the actual foods that we're eating for a second, but just for your body to do what it should do. And that is, if your body is able to secrete the right amount of digestive enzymes, and I won't get into too many details there because it's too complicated, your body will secrete enough enzymes to digest your food and absorb. But this is often where the problem is, that somehow our bodies are not able to produce the right amount of enzymes, so the food doesn't get digested and absorbed. And it's a vicious cycle. And you see this happening a lot with women, more with women than with men, although I see it also in men. It has to do with stress, as you say. It's one of the main reasons, but also not eating enough for our system to really run optimally and generate the energy. And this has a lot to do with an underactive thyroid, actually. I think we've spoken about that in previous.
Yeah, indeed, guys. If you want to know more, go check the other one. But remaining on the dysbiosis. So one of the things that I've noticed so many people have when they have a dysbiosis, they always say, you know what, when I don't eat, actually this could also be an indicator to further investigate what you have. A lot of the people, they say, when I don't eat, I feel great. And
this totally makes sense. This fits exactly into the story, what we're talking about, because having all this food undigested and this fermentation going on of all this bad bacteria being secreted, the bacteria and gassiness, and the compounds of these bacteria are somehow finding its way into the bloodstream, and the body is reacting by creating stress hormones. And there's this inflammatory reaction going on, which has a very big effect also on the brain. So not eating, very often for people that have this underactive thyroid and this, which is leading to this digestive impairment, it's just much better to not eat. It feels clean, it feels clear in the head. And people draw the conclusion, oh, wow, I should be kind of fasting.
Fasting, yeah.
Exactly. So that is a very short-term solution. Yes, not feeding the bad bacteria. With
and perhaps a sign for people that are not aware. This could be a sign. If you feel good when you're not eating, maybe this is a sign that you do need to get checked, because I think many people have this kind of like imbalances, and also the type of symptoms that you described before, like not feeling great in general, also the fatigue, and having this
brain fog, not feeling happy, not having a stable mood.
It's all
but
related.
You just said something. You should have yourself checked. Checked what? Where?
Well, at least you should have an understanding that this is a complex thing that should perhaps pay attention also to your gut, not just thinking, okay, it could be something else, because the gut sometimes is not taken into consideration as much as it should. So checked in that sense, you could do a culture, you can do a stool culture, or you can, in general, find out if you have an
hypersensitivity. Gut irritation is connected to everything. I guess it's not so easy to have yourself checked, but it's a reason, a motivation to look into your digestion and see how you can optimize. What foods are you eating? Are you eating all these undigestible foods for you? Cows have a totally different digestion. They can, deal with eating heaps of fibrous foods, insoluble fiber, grass. It takes 3 days to digest it. We don't have the capacity to do that. We have to have food that we're eating that is kind of easy to convert into energy and goes through the system and will not sit too long.
Yeah.
So this is an important indicator. And the problem with fasting, even though there's a lot of short-term benefits because you feel better, so it's very attractive to do that, but fasting often leads to not eating enough and not having enough energy for your whole body and your whole system to run, to do what it needs to do. So it's not a
100%.
long-term solution.
100%, I'm with you. Yeah, one of the things that perhaps we should also always consider, because I did approaching with a mentality of an holistic approach, is that sometimes some of the symptoms may not just be gut. As Gabi mentioned before, you might just eat and have a brain fog, or this is an indication. Because again, sometimes people don't make the connection, and this is really, really important to try to look at your overall, how you're sleeping, how you're eating, how you're feeling, aside from the bloatedness and other symptoms that they might be more easy to target. Okay, this is a gastrointestinal issue. So look at how you feel in general. So this is one of the things. Now, one of the other things that I wanted to ask you is like, because you mentioned about diet. So what would you think, how would you think in terms of how diet influenced the dysbiosis, and what would you recommend if you could do a couple of examples if somebody does have these imbalances? What would you recommend in terms of the fast absorbing food, the food that you can easily digest?
All right. So I would cut out all grains, all nuts, and all seeds. And that sounds crazy. Like people are like, what? Yeah. So I would cut out a lot of foods. So you would ask me, okay, so what's left? So let's start with what foods, yes. Fruits. Fruits are very easy digestible, absorbable. They have great sugar. We spoke about sugar last time a lot. I would like to emphasize again, we need sufficient sugar to fuel our cells. So all fruit, dried fruit, fruit juices, I would say root vegetables, potatoes, pumpkin, parsnip, courgettes. How do you say it in English? The
zucchini, yeah, that's Italian. I
zucchini.
don't
Thank
know.
you. Zucchini,
Yeah.
eggplant, tomato. These kind of flower vegetables are good. Dairy. Everyone can digest dairy, but the ones that can, definitely great source of calcium. Animal protein, any animal protein, beef, chicken, liver.
We do have a questions from a patient. Let me check. Let's see if they're coming in. Just because I believe, I mean, again, yeah. So what are the best foods to integrate in the diet with some of the, you just kind of answered.
Basically, what we're saying, easy fruit is very easy digestible. There's a lot of people that say, I just had yesterday a patient, I told them, try having some fruit before you go to sleep. This person kept waking up around 2, 3 in the morning, most probably caused by low blood sugar. So I told him, have some fruit before you go to sleep, in combination with a bit of yogurt, let's say, a protein. His answer was, no, but wouldn't it cause fermentation? So I said, no, on the contrary, it will be digested easily and it will avoid this blood sugar dip around 2, 3 in the morning that is causing you to wake up. So I would speak to him later, but I would be very curious to know, because this is a great strategy. So fruit is something for the woman that just asked the question. But also all the starchy vegetables, like I mentioned, the root vegetables, are excellent sources of easy digestible foods and also ready absorbable fuel for our body. I'm very, very strong on eating foods that our body can convert into fuel. Leafy greens, are not bad.
Exactly. I mean, perhaps if I can mention my personal experience with food, having also experienced, as many people, when I was younger, I
As
was
many
vegan.
people, we all
As
have.
everybody that is interested in nutrition and health, you explore.
Yeah.
Personally, I was vegan for 5 years, got very sick from it, and went back to eat pretty much everything now. And this is perhaps a lesson that everybody should. I mean, I'm not saying that being vegetarian or vegan, people can do whatever they want. I'm not gonna set big labels. But if we look just at science and what Gabi mentioned also before, the way physiologically, anatomically, we're just structured. We are made to eat animal product. We are made to eat everything, a bit of everything. I have another question, Gabi. So many people that I know, they go into this carnivore diet, which is, something that
I understand people though that do it. It's usually people that go into a carnivore diet usually find it and feel like, they finally found the solution. It's because they have so many reactions to foods that they're unable to digest, all these fibrous foods.
Yeah.
That eating just this meat and high fat diet, in a way, it's easy absorbable and it gives you certain nutrients that your body can run on. But it's, of course, nutrient void of other things. And
Exactly.
any kind of a dietary strategy that is avoiding something because it gives you symptoms is going to lead to more problems. There's no other way than to fix the underlying root cause of something. As we said, the fasting is a great temporary strategy to kind of figure out, okay, how I'm going to do this. But to just incorporate fasting forever isn't just, it's going to make you ultimately worse.
On the long
and the same
run.
goes for a carnivore diet.
Yeah. And if we think about, I mean, for me, as you said, everything that is extreme, I don't recommend it, everything that is like extreme veganism, extreme everything. It's not the way.
I've been a vegan too. I've been a vegan too. I thought it was the best thing that ever happened to me until I stopped sleeping, until I got all kinds of symptoms. And I realized, what am I doing?
Exactly. I mean, you have to try. Another thing that it might be interesting for the patients that are following us from home is like, okay, if you have already a migraine or a predisposition to vestibular migraine or, an underlying other inflammatory conditions related to also, unfortunately, the vestibular system for some patients, or they've been taking also medications because many patients, unfortunately, they do require medications when they have a vestibular disorders, and those medications, they can range. And of course, they have also an effect on their appetite and the way they eat. Like if you think about SSRI or other things, what would you think would be a tip that we can give to these patients at home to really be conscious and maybe strict in the sense to really take care of what they eat? What would you think would be something that a vestibular patient will benefit, if you have any advices for them?
Yeah, so an irritated gut will produce histamine. It will also produce extra serotonin. Too much serotonin is an inflammatory compound, and so is histamine. And it will affect the entire vestibular system. So my tip would be to really have a food diary and write down when you feel reactions, when you get triggered, when you notice that you have a spell of dizziness. Everyone, of course, has their own form of it and their own sequence throughout the day, but it's very important to connect what you eat in a day to how bad your symptoms are. And slowly cleaning up your diet by getting rid of the undigestible foods, all this high fibrous, insoluble fiber that doesn't get digested, that causes this dysbiosis, this irritation, and all these inflammatory compounds, very important to slowly diminish these from the diet and replace them with foods that your body knows how to absorb, like just some animal protein, eggs, dairy, different cheeses, fruit. I would always come back to saying something about fruit. And when earlier I said something about grains, so not everyone has a problem digesting grains. If you take a good sourdough bread, this is very easily digestible for a lot of people. I think becoming aware of what works best for you and understanding that a healthy digestion means that you digest your food and you have a bowel movement at least once or twice a day. If you're not having that, then there's something not optimal in your digestion. And solving this will ultimately have a very big effect on vestibular issues.
Yeah, it will have effect on the nervous system, and of course, maybe perhaps also help them to reduce the inflammations that they already have, the brain fog that might be coming from the high histamine reactions from after eating. Yeah,
absolutely.
Makes 100% sense. Okay, so dysbiosis. Now, if we go a little bit more and dive into the topics of dysbiosis, one of the key things that I believe people need to understand once again is this malabsorption, because I think this is the underlying issues that needs to be explained to everybody. So perhaps, Gabi, what would you think the patients and everybody that is kind of like listening to us from home would benefit from understanding a little bit more about the pathophysiologies of dysbiosis, and if you have anything that you want them to take at home with them in terms of, okay, this is what's happening when you do have this gut imbalance. This is what actually is happening.
Yeah, well, I would again come back to something that I said earlier, and that is there's this over focus on eating healthy foods that are full with nutrients. How often I have someone that comes to me that does these kale smoothies in the morning, and then she has a spinach salad for lunch. By the way, I used to do that, so I'm not making fun of anyone.
No, but I love because it's so common and it's so advertised everywhere.
It's so common. It's hard to not. If you're health conscious, then you kind of do that.
Yeah, it's everywhere. It's in the face of everybody. They think this is what healthy is.
Yeah, and what I just said about nuts and seeds. Oh my God, they're packed with nutrients. However, they're also packed with anti-nutrients. Anti-nutrients are little compounds that impair your body from absorbing them. So you just said malabsorption means not absorbing. Actually, worse, not only that you're not absorbing these nutrients that are in these things, but the anti-nutrients that come in combination with all these nuts and seeds are actually robbing your body from all the minerals that happen to already be there or that you got through the food. So I think the focus, what people should take home with them, is don't focus so much on the actual food and all the hundreds of nutrients that might be in there, but eat foods that don't give you a reaction, that you feel immediately energy. There is no one that is going to tell me that if they're hungry and they have a banana or have some juicy watermelon, that they don't just feel, the lights turn back on. You get some sugar, now it's not enough to last the entire day. You obviously need more foods, but eat foods that intuitively you feel, wow, this is actually what I like, and let go of all these ideas that sugar is somehow bad and we should diminish our sugar and up all the fibrous foods, because it's just too much. Our digestive tract is not built for so much fiber. We are not cows. Cows have 4 stomachs, and they have a huge, large intestine to ferment all this fiber. And they are able to convert it into energy. We are not. It just sits in the gut and causes fermentation.
Okay.
So
this is very important. And one more question. This is very, very important. One more thing that perhaps everybody should also know before you just mention, but I would like you to strengthen the message about the thyroid becoming underactive and the relation with malabsorptions. This is also something that, I mean, if we look just at the data that we have from research and vestibular patients, but not just vestibular, everybody. I mean, hypothyroidism is there. It's always there, especially in women after 40 years old. Hypothyroidism is always present.
It's hard not to be hypothyroid today. You really need to make extra effort to not be hypothyroid because of all the mainstream advice, because of the nutrition industry, because of all the crappy food that we have. It is just simply impossible to not be hypothyroid.
Exactly. And I mean, there's so many, everybody kind of is getting there, right? So in vestibular patients, even more, there's always a comorbidity associations with migraine, hypothyroidism, maybe even obesity, diabetes mellitus type 2. I mean, these are common in everywhere. So what would be maybe for them to understand if you're not eating enough, if there is malabsorption, hypothyroidism, meaning you have a low thyroid function is there. Why?
Yeah, so have you ever been to the symphony? Have you ever been to a symphony? You have like 40 violinists and you have the cellos and you imagine a whole symphony of 100 musicians. There's one conductor. The conductor is the one that will determine how the music sounds, how the music comes together. I'm giving this example because the thyroid is that. The thyroid is the main conductor. It determines basically everything in your body. So an underactive thyroid means your entire body will not be functioning optimal. When it comes to hormones, when it comes to nervous system, when it comes to digestion, when it comes to detoxification, I mean, we could talk for hours more about this. The thyroid needs to work in order for you to be healthy. The thyroid needs to work in order for you to digest your food optimally. The thyroid needs to work in order for you to secrete enough stomach acid, hydrochloric acid. Thyroid needs to work in order to activate other organs around that or glands that are secreting other digestive enzymes, etc., 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 etc. It's just a chain reaction. So when the whole thing is a little bit underactive, because the thyroid determines basically how much energy your body produces or converts, fasting a bit here and there and having a smoothie here and there, nothing would solve it. In order to get to the root cause, it's about optimizing your energy conversion. And it leads us back to the same point.
Yeah. So in other words, if you are under eating or you're having a very strict diet or you're eating inflammatory food type of foods that we described before, a lot of leafy greens and this kind of food that promotes inflammation or sulfurous foods, then what happens is that you get perhaps an under
thyroid is down. It's done. It doesn't. The conductor went home. You have an orchestra sitting there without a conductor.
Yeah,
literally that.
Okay. That's not very nice. Just to conclude today, because I mean, we touched most points that I believe they're very important for everybody, but now going back to the solutions. So, okay, let's say you do have a dysbiosis for whatever reason. It might be stress. It might be because you've been taking medications for a long time. It might be because whatever the reason, you're not eating the right type of foods. and you do develop this gut imbalance of microbiota. So what would be a solution? We mentioned before the fasting is a short-term solution. It's not going to solve your problems. So what would you
fasting
recommend?
actually goes against the solution. So it's deciding, okay, I want to deal with this. Getting rid of the foods that are causing the gut to be irritated. Grains, nuts and seeds, legumes, soy products. Eating easy digestible foods, the fruits, the root vegetables, getting enough protein from animal sources.
Yeah.
It's that.
And just because you mentioned, so somebody needs to also figure it out what works for them, and they need to use a diary. Not to make any advertisement to our app, but we have a whole section on triggers, and we have also a whole section on where they can take notes. So you can download and use the BEqualise app to do that. We're going to ask more and more questions also related to gut health in the next version that is coming out soon. But for now, you do have triggers about coffee. How does it make you feel or not? And you have a whole section of notes that you can write on yourself. So this is very important. Just wanted to mention it. Okay, so first of all, identify the foods, eliminate the ones that are bad you mentioned. And what could be, so it would be also perhaps looking at the lifestyle change, because there's such a strong relation with stress as well, right?
Yeah, so stress is something that you want to try to minimize, eliminate as much as possible, because as we mentioned earlier, the stress hormones are doing something to the entire system. They're paralyzing the thyroid. So stress is something we want to avoid. Now, it's not so simple to just eliminate all stress. If you're in a stressful job, or you're in a stressful relationship, or what any other kind of emotional, mental stress, that's not so simple to just solve like that. But the stress of not eating enough, fasting, it's a stress to the system, because your body needs the energy to do what it needs to do, in the same way that you would never get into your car without putting gas in the tank. You wouldn't think, well, maybe it will go anyway. You never know. I'm going to check. You know, if there's no gas in the tank, you're not going anywhere. Yet, I mean, you're laughing, but trust me, a lot of people, are doing this fasting or low carb diets.
Yeah, the low
thinking,
carb.
oh, my body knows how to convert energy, it will burn fat. But these are all less optimal ways. You're triggering your body into more stress. Just another thing I want to just put out there. Fasting and low carb diets, ladies, and been there myself, I'm sure you've been there too, cause the thyroid to just downregulate.
100%.
Yeah. Do not be afraid of carbs.
This is so hard to, because kind of like, again, the mainstream and everywhere, also because a lot of, there are so many people that unfortunately they do develop diabetes nowadays. So there is a promotion everywhere, ketogenic diet for diabetes immediately. Like that's the number one thing everybody's advertising. And it's really complex to go against what the mainstream.
Difficult.
I mean, eat everywhere and just be like, there are other ways,
because diabetes is sugar in the blood. So somehow sugar in the blood means, oh, we already have sugar in the blood, let's not eat sugar, let's avoid sugar, so we don't have sugar in the blood. But we should understand that, why is the sugar in the blood? Why is the sugar not being absorbed by the cells and converted into energy? Maybe we can stimulate this process and make the cells more insulin and glucose sensitive, instead of them being resistant. And one of the main triggers for this happening for diabetes is stress. Any kind of a stress from not eating, stress from any kind of emotional early life stress. Stress is always an underlying causative factor.
100%. And of course, education on food as well. I mean, there are also many people that underestimate what type of food is good and bad, and they just abuse, and they don't do anything with themselves. So this is also to keep in mind. Okay, I think we have one more question from somebody. Let's see. And then I'd just like to wrap up the kind of key points. Okay, what food not to eat anymore or as contributed to dysbiosis. Okay, they kind of wanted, again, if you can maybe make a quick recap of what are the key foods that kind of might be contributing with dysbiosis, in your opinion.
Nuts and seeds, all processed foods.
What do you mean with processed food? Let's give an example.
So the problem with a lot of our processed foods, anything that comes from a pack, the vegetable oils like sunflower oil, cottonseed oil, soy oil, there's many different types of vegetable oils. These are the seed oils that are used to process these foods. These are very problematic. So that's why one of the main reasons I'm saying no processed foods, but also nuts and seeds, which are considered extreme health foods, and all the bars that are made, the health bars that are made with nuts and seeds, get rid of those. Those just impair the digestion. It's very difficult to digest them. They cause all kinds of issues, histamine release, etc., etc. Would be very careful with grains, especially cheap manufactured snacks, processed foods again, but bread, wheat, except for if it's really like organic sourdough bread, that usually is okay. And very, very careful with legumes. So all kinds of beans, and especially the ones that are the worst are actually the soybeans, which are basically used in everything.
Great. Yeah, this is why we say it's very common that you develop these problems in our world, because nobody's even cooking anymore. This is another big thing. Nobody has the time to really eat
and
fresh
then you don't
foods.
know what is in your food. So that's complicated. That's very complicated. I mean, there are many more strategies how to heal your gut. This is quite complicated. I can't just sum it all up in 2 minutes. Obviously, it's important to really work with a practitioner if you're not able to figure it out. But there's a lot you can do just by eliminating certain foods that you thought, okay, I thought this was actually contributing to my health and well-being, that you might just try not eating for a couple of days and see if there's a difference in your symptoms.
Yeah. So perhaps number one is awareness and trying to figure it out what works for you specifically. Yeah, Gabi, you mentioned something very important. I'd like to strengthen that for all the patients that do have prolonged, long-lasting symptoms and they do want to get, help, please reach out to Gabi. You can do that hopefully in next week also on our new landing page and website. So you can just immediately directly go and reach out to her as well, so that you can have a one-to-one and she can really then do something specific for your needs, which is because another thing that is also very, very important when we talk about nutrition is that food, is also personal. Everybody is different. Everybody has different life. Everybody does different things.
There is not one diet that is good. It's about figuring out for yourself, and there's so many things around it. We women especially, we restrict ourselves. We tell ourselves we should not eat that and we should eat that because of what we've been told. And it's really about understanding that there's no need to live in restriction, to count calories. It's about enjoying food and liking not only that you're eating, but that you don't have to think about that you shouldn't eat. You should be able to just eat freely. And if you feel hungry, that means most probably you should eat. Yeah.
Yeah. And knowing
Yeah.
what to know, what to eat, and how you function, then
Yeah.
and what not to eat will definitely help you.
Mhm.
One more thing, just in the conclusion, that perhaps we should also strengthen and mentions to everybody is that the dysbiosis is, of course, not so easy to treat, but you can regulate yourself,
Oh,
and
totally.
just a period, right? You do have periods of your life where you might have it and then it goes away, and if you're not careful, might come back. So you may have period of restrictions of certain food, but it does not mean you will have to do it the rest of your life. This is also a very important message, because I believe a lot of people will be frightened. Does it mean I can never eat this again? No,
No,
it is not.
it's all
Yeah.
about finding, where it is your balance. And you would
It
be
is.
surprised that people that work with me privately, I allow them. I recommend certain foods that you would never expect are part of a healthy diet, but they are. A healthy diet means delicious foods. There's another thing I want to mention, why we see these symptoms happening more to women. That's because women have this monthly cycle of hormones that are often also dysregulated. And the estrogen is deeply intertwined in this whole process of the thyroid working well and impairing. So there's a lot to it.
Yeah, the pituitary in general, the pituitary hormones, they're all have a huge implication. Okay, perhaps this is something we can talk next time. If you want us to talk about anything, please let us know. Leave the comments.
Yeah, let us know.
We can always try to also talk and do something that you are interested in. Okay, Gabi, so in conclusion, if we have to sum it up, dysbiosis is the dysregulations of the gut microbiota. What would you be the 3 things you would say to the patients to do tomorrow if they do have dysbiosis, and then hopefully they take home this strong message and they know what to look for if they have an imbalance?
Don't eat outside your house for a while. Cook your own food. Stop nuts and seeds and all soy products, especially the soy products. This brings great relief to digestive issues. And include having more fruit or fruit juice. Just that.
Okay, that's it. Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, Gabi. I hope everybody enjoyed today's short session. If you want us to talk about anything specifically, let us know, and follow us on social media. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and of course YouTube as BEqualise. And let us know if you have any questions. Thank you again, Gabi.
You're welcome.
Thanks for
Thank you, Vivi.